Late one chilly evening, the quiet of a suburban neighborhood was broken by the faint rustling of bushes and the sound of footsteps sneaking across the neatly trimmed lawns. Two men dressed in dark clothes with ski masks pulled tightly over their faces were moving stealthily under the cover of darkness. Jake and Trevor, small-time crooks desperate for a big score, had been watching the house for days. It belonged to a man they believed was an elderly veteran who lived alone. They assumed it would be an easy target, a house filled with valuable military memorabilia and little resistance. What Jake and Trevor didn't know was that the house wasn't just the home of a veteran. It was also guarded by two highly trained military canines named Zeus and Shadow. These dogs weren't just pets. They were retired service animals with instincts and training that rivaled even the most skilled human security. The two men crouched near a side window, whispering to each other. "This will be quick," Jake said, pulling out a crowbar. "We're in and out. Nobody's home, and the guy probably keeps his medals and gear in a safe or something." Trevor nodded, though his hands were trembling slightly. He wasn't as confident as Jake, but he was desperate. They both needed the money, and this seemed like a golden opportunity. Inside the house, Zeus and Shadow were resting in their designated area near the back door. The German Shepherds had been through years of rigorous training during their service with their owner, a former Special Forces operative named Tom. Even in retirement, the dogs remained sharp, their loyalty and alertness unwavering. As the men worked to pry open the window, the faint sound of scraping metal caught Zeus's ear. His head shot up and his ears twitched as he listened intently. Shadow, sensing her partner's shift in focus, rose silently to her feet. Within seconds, both dogs were on high alert, moving toward the source of the noise with precision and stealth. Jake finally managed to jimmy the window open, and Trevor helped him climb inside. The house was dark, the only light coming from a dim street lamp outside. The air smelled faintly of leather and wood polish, and the men could see shadowy shapes of furniture and decorations. Jake pulled out a small flashlight and began scanning the room. "Let's check the living room first," he whispered, motioning for Trevor to follow. Unbeknownst to them, Zeus and Shadow were already in the hallway, their movements silent as shadows. Zeus's deep brown eyes locked onto the intruders, and he let out a low growl, just loud enough for Trevor to freeze in his tracks. "Did you hear that?" Trevor whispered, his voice trembling. "Hear what?" "Stop freaking out!" Jake hissed back, annoyed. Then it happened again, a deep, guttural growl that sent a chill down Trevor's spine. He grabbed Jake's arm. "I'm serious, man. I think there's something in here." Before Jake could respond, the unmistakable sound of claws clicking on hardwood floors grew louder. Zeus stepped into the faint beam of the flashlight, his muscular frame and sharp eyes sending an instant message. "You don't belong here." Jake stumbled backward, his flashlight trembling in his hand. "What the?" Before he could finish, Shadow appeared beside Zeus, her teeth bared in a silent snarl. The two dogs stood side by side, a formidable wall of muscle and determination. "Let's get out of here!" Trevor shouted, panic overtaking him. He turned to run, but Zeus lunged forward, barking sharply. The sound was deafening in the quiet house, and Trevor tripped over a coffee table, landing hard on the floor. Jake, trying to remain calm, fumbled for the crowbar. "They're just dogs," he muttered, though his voice wavered. Zeus and Shadow weren't just dogs, though. They were trained protectors. With military precision, Zeus moved to block the front door while Shadow herded Trevor into a corner. Their barks were sharp and commanding, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Tom, the owner, had been out running errands but was only minutes away from home. His phone buzzed with an alert from the house's security system, notifying him of a break-in. He immediately pulled over and checked the live camera feed, his heart racing when he saw two unfamiliar men in his living room. "Good dogs," he muttered to himself, watching as Zeus and Shadow maintained control of the situation. Without wasting a moment, he called the police and sped home. Inside the house, Jake and Trevor were paralyzed with fear. Every time they tried to move, one of the dogs would bark or growl, their movements calculated and intimidating. Trevor was practically in tears, while Jake's bravado had completely crumbled. "Call them off!" Jake shouted, though he knew it was futile. Minutes later, red and blue lights flashed outside as police cars screeched to a stop. Tom arrived just behind them, jumping out of his truck and running toward the house. When he entered, the sight that greeted him almost made him laugh. Zeus and Shadow stood like sentinels, their eyes never leaving the intruders. Trevor was curled up in a corner, while Jake stood frozen near the window, his hands raised in surrender. "Good work, boys," Tom said, his voice calm but firm. He signaled the dogs, and they immediately stepped back, their watchful eyes still fixed on the intruders. The police quickly apprehended Jake and Trevor, who were more than willing to be escorted out just to get away from the intimidating canines. As the officers cuffed them, one of them turned to Tom. "Your dogs are incredible. They probably saved your house, and maybe even your life." Tom smiled, giving Zeus and Shadow a proud pat on their heads. "They're not just dogs," he said. "They're family." The story of the break-in quickly spread, with many praising the heroic actions of Zeus and Shadow. For Tom, it was a reminder of the unbreakable bond between a man and his loyal companions. As for Jake and Trevor, their night of crime turned into a lesson they would never forget. Sitting in a jail cell, Trevor muttered, "Next time, let's stick to empty houses." Jake shot him a look. "There's not going to be a next time." What would you have done if you were in Tom's shoes? Have you ever seen dogs as loyal and brave as Zeus and Shadow? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories that remind us of the power of loyalty and courage. Stay tuned for our next story. It's one you won't want to miss.